Hello and welcome to News9. I'm Verghese Abraham. First up, we have some big news coming in from the national capital itself. Delhi Chief Minister and Aam Aadmi Party's national convener, Arvind Kejriwal, has been summoned by the Enforcement Directorate. This summons is related to the Delhi excise policy case, which has its origins in an FIR by the Central Bureau of Investigation due to alleged irregularities in the now scrapped excise policy of 2021-22. Notably, the Supreme Court recently denied bail to Aam Aadmi Party leader Manish Sisodia in connection with the same case. Kejriwal had previously been questioned by the CBI in April. It's worth mentioning that Kejriwal is not named as an accused in the CBI's FIR from last year. Kejriwal was called for questioning by the Central Bureau of Investigation in connection with the same case in April this year. However, the AAP Supremo has not been named as an accused in the FIR by the CBI in August last year. Kejriwal was questioned by the CBI for over 9 hours in connection with the corruption and criminal conspiracy probe in the case. ED and CBI claimed that the AAP-led Delhi government's liquor policy encouraged cartelization and unfairly favoured ineligible parties for financial gain. Kejriwal and his party, on the other hand, rejected these allegations and argued that the new policy would have boosted revenue sharing. Let's listen into some of the political reactions coming in with regard to the story.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी को आम आदमी पार्टी से डर लगता है। दिल्ली और पंजाब में हो रहे हर काम से डर लगता है। फ्री बिजली से डर लगता है, अच्छे स्कूलों से डर लगता है, मोहल्ला क्लिनिक से डर लगता है। इसीलिए वो झूठे केस करके आम आदमी पार्टी के नेताओं को जेल में डालना चाहती है, पार्टी को खत्म करना चाहती है। इसी साजिश के तहत 2 नवंबर को अरविंद केजरीवाल को ईडी ने समन किया। उन पे झूठा केस लगा के उनको गिरफ्तार करना चाहते हैं ईडी वाले, भारतीय जनता पार्टी वाले। पर मैं भारतीय जनता पार्टी को बता दूं कि हम जेल जाने से नहीं डरते, हम उनके झूठे केसेस से नहीं डरते। हम देश के लोगों के लिए, देश के हर आम आदमी के लिए काम करते रहेंगे।
जैसा कि खबर आ रही है कि अब केंद्र सरकार की ईडी ने दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री श्री अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को समन भेजा है 2 तारीख का। इससे बात साफ हो जाती है कि केंद्र सरकार का एक ही मकसद है, किसी तरीके से आम आदमी पार्टी को खत्म कर देना। और इसके लिए वो कोई कसर नहीं छोड़ रहे, किसी तरीके से कैसे भी फर्जी केस बना के मुख्यमंत्री अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को जेल में बंद किया जाए और आम आदमी पार्टी को खत्म किया जाए।
It is clear as daylight. The Sharab Ghotala is a Ghotala of Kejriwal, by Kejriwal, for Kejriwal. And Mr. Kejriwal is the mastermind, is the kingpin of the Sharab Ghotala. There is no doubt left in it anymore. Today the law enforcement agencies and all the investigation they have done so far has been vindicated by the Supreme Court. You said there was no Sharab Ghotala. The Supreme Court has differed from your view. You said there was no money trail. The Supreme Court says that there is a 338 crore money trail. You said Manish Sisodia is Kattar Imandar. The Supreme Court, lower court, high court, all of them have denied bail to Manish Sisodia. These courts, after the evidence placed in front of them, have denied bail to Sanjay Singh, to Vijay Nair, to Manish Sisodia. And all of them have said that the highest levels of Delhi government were collaborating and conniving in taking part in this entire Sharab Ghotala. Are all the courts wrong? Are all the courts vindictive? Are all the courts not able to see that you are Kattar Imandar? And today you must answer questions. Did the new Sharab policy get made without your knowledge, without your active connivance? Is it not true that there is a statement on record under 164 that it was with your active presence, connivance and information, knowledge and blessings that the commission was tweaked from 2.5% to 12% even though Dhawan committee did not recommend it?
अभी भी खबर लगी है कि 2 तारीख को ईडी ने मुख्यमंत्री अरविंद केजरीवाल को शराब घोटाले के अंदर सम्मन करके बुलाया है। मुख्यमंत्री जी, आप जो मर्जी कहें, ईडी के बहुत सारे सवालों के जवाब आपको देने पड़ेंगे। और ये सवाल और भी महत्वपूर्ण हो जाते हैं जब आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने दिन में जब मनीष सिसोदिया के को बेल रिजेक्ट करते हुए टिप्पणी की 338 करोड़ रुपए के बारे में, उसका सवाल का जवाब तो आपको देना होगा, क्योंकि इस सब शराब घोटाले के मास्टरमाइंड और किंग पिन तो अरविंद केजरीवाल जी आप ही हैं। और हम तो शुरू से कहते आ रहे हैं कि वो दिन दूर नहीं कि जब आप जेल की सलाखों के पीछे होंगे। 2 तारीख को क्या होगा हमें नहीं मालूम, लेकिन बहुत सारे सवालों के आपको जवाब देने हैं। सवालों के जवाब से आप घबराइएगा नहीं।
it was an offing after the Supreme Court rejecting the bail of Mr. Sisodia. I have tweeted in the morning saying the same, that Mr. Kejriwal should resign now before he gets a knock from the ED, because he is a kingpin of the complete scam, liquor scam. Court has accepted the money trail of 338 crore rupees and had said, yes, there was a money trail, there was a scam. Now, even there are officers who have gone on as approver and has said on record that every policy, every change in the policy, every comma and full stop was dictated by Mr. Kejriwal. It happened in front of Mr. Kejriwal. So Mr. Kejriwal drafted the policy benefiting the liquor mafia, and now he is being called on that. He will have to answer a lot of questions. It's better he resigns now, or we will have to wait till the time he is arrested.
शराब नीति का घोटाला आया था, हम पहले दिन से कह रहे थे कि इस पूरे घोटाले के सूत्रधार अरविंद केजरीवाल हैं, और आज जब माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय ने मनीष सिसोदिया की बेल खारिज की और साथ ही साथ ये भी एस्टेब्लिश किया कि 338 करोड़ की मनी ट्रेलिंग, तो अब अरविंद केजरीवाल को बताना पड़ेगा कि वो 338 करोड़ रुपए कहाँ खर्च किए हैं। और दिल्ली वाले अरविंद केजरीवाल के भ्रष्ट शासन से मुक्ति पाना चाहते हैं। अभी हमने दशहरा मनाया है, बुराई पे अच्छाई की जीत का त्यौहार मनाया है, तो आज हमें भी ये लगता है कि अब वो दिन भी आने वाला है कि सच्चाई की जीत होगी। अरविंद केजरीवाल और इनकी पूरी टीम जो छाती पीट पीट कर अपने आप को कट्टर ईमानदार कहती है, इनके सबके चेहरे बेनकाब हो गए हैं। ये काले चेहरे अब जनता के सामने आएंगे।
देखिए, इन्वेस्टिगेशन उस मामले में पहले से चली हुई है और स्वाभाविक है कुछ साक्ष्य इस प्रकार के होंगे जिसके कारण पहले सीबीआई ने इन्वेस्टिगेशन के लिए बुलाया और उसके पश्चात अब ईडी ने समन दिया है इन्वेस्टिगेशन ज्वाइन करने के लिए, क्योंकि ये सारा मामला बहुत लोगों से जुड़ा हुआ है और स्वाभाविक रूप से इसमें गंभीर आरोप जो पुष्टि की तरफ जो है वो बढ़ रहे हैं आने वाले समय में, जिस तरह से हम देख रहे हैं कि जिसमें कुछ लोगों की, इनके नेताओं की पूछताछ के बाद उनकी गिरफ्तारी भी हुई है। और इसी मामले को लेकर के केजरीवाल जी को बुलाया है, तो ये साधारण बात नहीं है। तो कुछ साक्ष्य होंगे और सच हैं तो उनको अपना पक्ष रखना चाहिए, अगर गलत किया है तो निश्चित रूप से कानून अपना काम करेगा।
देखिए, ये जो ईडी ने समन भेजा अरविंद केजरीवाल को, हमारे बंगाल की दीदी का भाई है। दीदी ने जो इंडी अलायंस है, इस इंडी अलायंस में मीटिंग में जाकर दीदी ने अपने भाई को जो बुद्धि दिया है, उस बुद्धि के कारण आज अरविंद केजरीवाल का डेप्यूटी चीफ मिनिस्टर जेल के अंदर है। अब चीफ मिनिस्टर जाने वाला है जेल के अंदर, वो दिख रहा है। तो ममता बनर्जी के साथ जो भी रहेगा उसको जेल के अंदर जाना पड़ेगा। अभी भाई जा रहा है, इसके बाद दीदी की बारी आएगी। पहले भाई जाके जेल अच्छी तरह से देख ले, उसके बाद जब बोलेगा ओके तो दीदी भी अंदर चली जाएगी। और सब इंडिया अलायंस में जितने भी नेता हैं, सब एक से एक बढ़कर चोर हैं।
Well, moving on, Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde met Governor Ramesh Bais late Monday evening to apprise him of the developments that were related to what was happening with regards to the Maratha Quota Stir. The stir, which has descended into violence and arson in many places, is turning out to be a nightmare for the rattled coalition. A CMO said that meeting was routine procedure under which the CM briefs the governor whenever there is some major development or social unrest in society. Meanwhile, Shinde was at Raj Bhavan for around 45 minutes, and after that, Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, who is also having the home portfolio, also met the Chief Minister at his official residence Varsha to apprise him of the situation. My colleague Kiran Tare, in fact, joins us with the latest that's happening in Maharashtra and also with regard to the agitation that is here. The Maratha Quota agitation, Kiran, has turned out to be a difficult maze to navigate politically for the current coalition? Because on one side, you are trying to say you represent the interests of the Marathas. Two important coalition partners, NCP as well as Shiv Sena, have a huge Maratha base to be worried about. Now, the BJP, meanwhile, seems to be caught up in this because legally, of course, it's been a difficult issue when it comes to the Maratha quota. But how do you think that they will be able to go ahead and ensure that they will have some kind of a compromise that they can give when it comes to this issue?
Of course, the BJP has been the biggest sufferer of all this agitation. You see, when BJP was in the power for 5 years, it was the party which had initiated the reservation for Marathas, but the Supreme Court struck it down. So that's why the anger has been diverted towards the BJP. People are saying that BJP is responsible for all this mess. Though there are some technical problems, the BJP is not able to try to convince the Maratha agitators that the party has nothing to do with the Supreme Court order, and that's where the problem lies. Yesterday, what had happened at two big MLAs, those ruling party MLAs, they had to face the hate of the agitators. Their houses were burned down. This never happened in Maharashtra. This is happening for the first time that any agitation over the issue of reservation has turned violent, and violent to some extent that the houses of the MLAs are burned, the vehicles of the MPs and MLAs are being torched. This kind of agitation, this kind of violence was never witnessed in the state before. So what could be the solution? Yesterday, Eknath Shinde, the Chief Minister, has already announced that they will issue the certificates of Kunbi caste to those Marathas who have some kind of evidences with them. Interestingly, the Kunbis are in OBCs in Maharashtra. So once a portion of the Marathas, they are getting Kunbi certificates, they will be entitled for the reservations meant for the OBCs. But the number is very less. It could be in thousands. The demand is now, which is coming up, is that Manoj Jarange Patil, who is the leader of Maratha agitation, the new leader of Maratha agitation, he has been saying that every single Maratha should be called as an Kunbi and he should be included in the OBCs. Here is the problem, because there are almost 35% of the population which calls themselves as Marathas, and if they are tagged as OBCs, then there will be unrest among the OBCs as well. So this is a very tricky situation. The government has been caught in the very catch-20 situation. On one side, there is Marathas who are agitating for the reservation. Other side, there are OBCs who don't want a single % of their reservation to be given to any part of Marathas. So Marathas and OBCs, these are two major communities in the state, and the Maharashtra government is really facing the biggest challenge of its tenure now.
Well, right now, so what is the kind of possibility or what kind of compromise can be struck? Because as you were saying, you have a Supreme Court factor in this, trying to being pushed into the OBC category. Of course, there will be agitation within the OBC community as well. So it is going to be quite difficult. Is there a possibility of a compromise right now? Because technically speaking, when you look at the numbers of trying to accommodate the reservation and the legality of it, it is not easy. So is there a possibility? Is someone thinking out of the box as well?
Technically and legally, it is not possible to go beyond the cap of 50% unless and until the parliament enacts a law. That is very clear. Everybody is clear on that. The only solution could be a political negotiations, the political convincing, the maneuvering, and pacifying the Maratha agitators, giving them some concrete assurance or some concrete steps that they will be included in the OBC quota if they have the evidences. That is the only possible solution. Because otherwise you are crossing the limit of 50%, the Supreme Court will strike it down. Supreme Court has already done it that. Supreme Court has already said that the states don't have a right to go beyond the cap of 50%. So within the 50%, they have to manage everything. And that is what the Maratha organizations are also saying. They are saying that we don't want to go beyond 50%, but include us in the OBC category. That is the demand now. So if Marathas are included in the OBCs, what will be the reaction from the OBC communities? That will be very interesting, because the OBCs in Maharashtra is more than 50%. Marathas are 30-35%. So these two communities are fighting for the same quota. which is 27%. So within 27%, Marathas and OBCs are included, then there will be a massive unrest. The Maharashtra government will definitely like to avoid this thing. The only solution which I think is politically convincing both the community leaders. Fortunately, both the community leaders, they are in the government. OBC leaders are many ministers, as well as the Maratha ministers are also ministers. The chief minister himself is a Maratha. He can manage, he can convince, he has that power to convince his own community, to pacify, to do the agitation without any violence. That could be the only solution, because once it takes a violent turn, then things can go out of their hands.
Tari, let's listen into what the Chief Minister had to say on this, and he's in fact said that there should be patience when it comes to this issue. Stay with us. We'll just listen into what Eknath Shinde had to say.
म्हणून जे मराठा समाजाला जे आरक्षण आहे ते टिकणार, नियमातलं कायद्याच्या चौकटीत बसणार देईल म्हणून मी स्वतः त्या ठिकाणी आज बैठक घेतली, सगळ्या कमिट्या बनवल्या, प्रेस कॉन्फरन्स घेतली, सविस्तरपणे मी सांगितलं. फक्त माझी एवढीच विनंती आहे, आपण मराठा समाजाने, मराठा बांधव जे आहेत त्यांनी थोडा संयम बाळगणं आवश्यक आहे. काही गोष्टी असतात त्या आज कुणबी दाखल्यांचा विषय होता. मराठवाड्यातल्या 11,530 कुणबी नोंदी मिळाल्या. आपण ती जस्टिस शिंदे कमिटी नेमल्यामुळे, म्हणून सरकारचा हेतू स्वच्छ आहे. सरकार कुठेही आडपडदा ठेवू इच्छित नाही, परंतु कुणालाही खोटं आश्वासन देऊन खोटी फसवणूक सरकार करणार नाही. जे करेल ते आपल्या सर्वांच्या समक्ष, सर्वांच्या साक्षीने, आणि ते काम आपलं सुरू झालेलं आहे. ते काम आपलं सुरू झालेलं आहे या जस्टिस शिंदे कमिटीच्या माध्यमातून देखील, आणि सुप्रीम कोर्टाच्या क्युरेटिव्ह पिटिशनच्या माध्यमातून देखील. आणि म्हणून मराठा समाजाने थोडं धीर धरावा आणि टोकाची भूमिका, टोकाचं पाऊल आपण उचलू नका. शेवटी एक जीव आपल्याला महत्त्वाचा असतो.
Well, Kinnathari, it seems that the Chief Minister is asking for patience, and probably that is the way of asking, like, I need some time to settle this issue as well. He's asked there for the patience, but the violence on the ground is another concerning part of it. I mean, when we talk about the violence, one thing that is for sure is that there is this problem on the ground when it comes to violence. That is, you have politicians actually being targeted, as you rightly pointed out early. But the issue is over here is that it looks like there is no scope for patience anymore among the Maratha community leaders.
Of course, the patience is running out, because see, this kind of unrest is never seen before. Earlier also there were unrest in the community, but there were peaceful marches. 58 marches Maharashtra has seen in 3 years. Everything was peaceful, non-violent. This time the violence has taken place, but my information is that some people are trying to settle their political scores, because the two incidences that happened in one particular district, that is Beed, and local politics is also a reason behind all this kind of violence. What the Chief Minister is saying is absolutely correct. He is saying that we should adopt the legal ways, we should approach the Supreme Court, and they have already filed a curative petition, but the Supreme Court cannot take a decision in a day or 2 or a month. It is a long procedure. It will take a lot of time. In between that, the Supreme Court, when the Supreme Court will come out with a decision whether the Marathas can be tagged as backward community or not, that is the only. Meanwhile, the Maharashtra government has decided to give Kunbi status, OBC status, to those people who have some kind of evidences establishing that they represent the OBC communities. But of course, as I said earlier, there are hardly 1,000, 10,000, 11,000 people. But the Maratha community numbers are too much, and everything could not be accommodated in the OBC status. The only thing, the only solution is to pacify the community through dialogue, through political convincing, and through maneuvering, taking everybody into confidence. That is not happening as of now. Manoj Jarange Patil, who is the leader of the Maratha community, he is adamant that every single Maratha should be included in the OBC category. That is not going to happen as far as I know. As far as the legal experts are saying, that is not going to happen. But there should be a mean way there should be some kind of compromise formula. I think that compromise formula will be discussed in the cabinet's meeting today. If they are coming with a strong resolution, or if they are coming with a strong conviction that Maratha community will not get any kind of injustice from the government side, then also the violence can cease, the violence can stop. But the only thing is that who will take this blame? Who will bail the cat? That is the only point. Maratha reservation issue is heading up the politics, and nobody, no political leader is willing to sacrifice his political career against the community's wish. That is the whole problem here.
Well, also now, since we were talking about law and order, how is the law and order situation right now in the state? Of course, we have seen, the politicians' houses and BJP offices being set ablaze, and a curfew also being imposed in parts of Bid as well. So what is the law and order situation that we are seeing right now?
The law and order is not good in the Marathwada region, particularly from where the agitation started. As you said, that Bid is the most affected district. Houses are being torched, houses are being burned, offices are being burned. But apart from that, outside Marathwada and some parts of Vidarbha, almost 200 villages, they have passed a resolution that they won't allow any politician to enter their villages, as a mark to protest against the government's inaction towards Maratha reservation. So if the violence is not stopped by today or tomorrow, then it can spread like a wildfire across the state. The immediate need is to stop the violence, to get those people arrested, and to convince them that the only solution is a peaceful talk, not the violent things. But I think Marathwada is burning today. If the government, last night also the Chief Minister had discussion with the Director General of Police, and my information is that they are going to take some concrete decisions through peaceful dialogue. But is that happening or not, that we will come to know by today evening.
Well, thank you, Kiran, for getting us all the updates and also giving us an insight on what exactly is happening when it comes to the Maratha agitation. Well, moving on, the Kaveri Water Regulation Committee has recommended Karnataka to release 2,600 cusecs of water per day to Tamil Nadu at Biligundu for 1st November to 15th November. This is the gist of the deliberations of the 89th CWRC meeting that was held on Monday. Karnataka has made a submission before the CWRC requesting to report to the CWMA that in the light of almost nil inflows into 4 reservoirs, Karnataka will not be able to release any water from its reservoirs to reach Biligundu except that would be contributed from the uncontrolled catchment. Tamil Nadu has demanded that Karnataka has to release 13,000 cusecs for next 15 days. Finally, CWRC recommended that Karnataka needs to ensure releases from its reservoirs so that the flows, which could be around at 2,600 cusecs, are realized at Biligundu starting from the 1st of November to the 15th of November. Well, today marks day 25 since Israel suffered potentially the worst attack in its brief history as a nation. Hamas carried out the deadly attacks on southern Israel on October 7. Here's the latest update from the war front. Israel will not agree for a ceasefire is what Benjamin Netanyahu has said. He said that he's not going to agree for a ceasefire in Gaza as the operations are at a crucial juncture. Meanwhile, Hamas has released video of hostages and has demanded a prisoner swap. There have been few hostages, the elderly ones who had been released recently, and at the same time there's been a reported rescue of a IDF soldier who was also kidnapped on October 7th. Meanwhile, at least 8,306 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza. The IDF, meanwhile, has said that the offensive in Gaza is going to intensify in the coming days. IDF intensifies military operations in northern Gaza. This is where the action has been taking place, as IDF has invaded Gaza and has been combing the area as well. Israeli airstrikes severely damaged the Turkish-Palestinian Friendship Hospital. Hospitals have also not been spared from IDF attacks. Mideast leaders must consider two-state solution, is what the United States has in fact said. President Biden stressing that there is a need for a two-state solution on this matter. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has condemned Hamas's cruel psychological propaganda as the terrorist group released a video showing 3 Israeli hostages in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israeli forces intensify their ground offensive in Gaza's northern city, targeting over 600 military sites. Palestinian civilians face dire shortages of fuel, food and clean water amid the escalating conflict that is now entering almost its 4th week. Let's listen into what Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had to say.
אנחנו נלחמים על הבית ואנחנו ננצח בעזרת האנשים האלה ואחרים שחדורים ברוח לחימה, ברוח הקרבה, ברוח הניצחון. תודה לכם.
On the 7th of October, Hamas undertook a brutal attack on Israel. The much-touted intelligence forces of the West Asian nation Israel was caught completely off guard. The Israeli administration has admitted to an intelligence failure on their part and promised to launch through investigation into determining what went wrong on that fateful day of 7th of October. An investigation by a prominent American daily analyzed the failures of Israel that led to the Hamas attack. The investigation, based on dozens of interviews with Israeli, Arab, European and American officials, as well as a review of several official documents of the Israeli government, narrowed down on factors which led to the kind of attack that Hamas carried out on October 7th. There are 4 such factors. Let's bring you one by one on this. The first one is the Israeli government under Benjamin Netanyahu had ignored several warnings issued by the intelligence and military outfits. In July this year, which is just 3 months before the Hamas attack happened, what we understand is that 2 generals had briefed the Knesset in July warning about this impending attack, delivering urgent warning about why they need to be prepared. This was the time when Benjamin Netanyahu was looking to push through the legislations which put curbs on the judiciary and emboldened his government. The generals had warned that the political turmoil inside Israel was in turn emboldening Israel's enemies like Iran, Syria, Hamas, Hezbollah and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. The general said that these entities believed that this was Israel's moment of weakness and an opportune moment to strike. This briefing, however, was listened to only by 2 members of the Knesset, while the legislation curbing the judicial powers were passed, overwhelmingly in turn deepening the political turmoil in Israel. General Herzi Halevi, one of the 2 aforementioned generals, even tried warning Netanyahu in a separate meeting, but the Prime Minister refused to meet Halevi. According to the investigation by an American daily, the Israeli government also ignored warnings coming in from Jordan. The Jordanian government, which is the custodian of the holy sites in Jerusalem, had also issued warnings to Israel, but these warnings were ill-received by the Israeli administration. The second factor which allowed the October 7th attack was Israeli intelligence and security over-focused towards threats after Hezbollah and Iran, which led to the neglect of the threat from Hamas. As per the NYT investigation that was carried out, what we understand is that Hamas evolved into a governing power of Gaza in 2007. The Israeli authorities thought that they could contain Hamas with an extensive network of human spies, sophisticated surveillance tools and border fortifications. Israeli officials viewed Hamas as a regional threat and not as a global terrorist organization like the Hezbollah or the Islamic State. Taking the eye off Hamas led the terror group regain its strength and work silently to launch such an attack on Israel. The investigation also focuses on Benjamin Netanyahu's alleged strategy of building Hamas as a way to balance power against the Palestinian Authority, which controls the West Bank and has long sought peace agreement with Israel in exchange for a Palestinian state. The article also claims that Netanyahu has often told his aides that a feeble Palestinian Authority could lower the pressure on him to make concessions to the Palestinians. The fourth factor is that the Israeli officials firmly believe that the 40-mile-long wall was enough to completely seal off Gaza and protect them for any attacks. They believed in the combination of remote surveillance and machine gun systems along the massive barrier wall would make it almost impossible to infiltrate. But the Hamas was smart and displayed the strict discipline to breach this wall. The terror group used explosive drones that damaged the cellular antenna and the remote firing systems that protected the fence wall. Hamas claimed that he used 35 drones in the opening strike on the wall. Secondly, Hamas terrorists divided themselves into several groups, each of which swarmed the wall and close to 30 different locations, making it extremely difficult for Israeli forces to fix the breach. Israeli forces launched an attack on Gaza's main northern city, escalating a major ground offensive in the Palestinian enclave. This has prompted increased international calls for civilian protection. Both sides report clashes and casualties, with the Israeli military stating that they have eliminated 4 prominent Hamas operatives. The situation remains tense as the events unfold. These are visuals coming in of the Israeli operation that is being carried out at the Gaza border. Tanks and armed personal vehicles have seen moving into the enclave and carrying out with a street-to-street battle with the Hamas. 4 Hamas operatives, senior operatives, are said to have been eliminated in the operations that are being carried out in Gaza, especially in northern Gaza. Israel said that it is entrenching itself in Gaza for the long haul. The Israeli Defense Forces engaged in heavy exchange of fire with the Palestinians at the Jenin refugee camp in West Bank. As per the Palestinian Health Ministry, 4 people were killed and 5 others critically injured in the clashes with the Israeli forces. The Israeli media reported that clashes with the Palestinians also involved the use of drone strikes apart from heavy exchange of fire. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari informed the counter-terrorism raids were carried out at Jenin refugee camp under the command of the Kafir Brigade. As per reports, 51 wanted persons were arrested in Judea and Samaria, and at the end, the extensive operations. Now, Israeli forces claim that 38 out of the 51 arrested persons were operatives of the Hamas terror group. Hamas has claimed that overnight strikes by the Israeli forces struck the Turkish Friendship Hospital for Cancer in the Gaza City area. This hospital is the only facility which is equipped to treating cancer patients in the whole of Gaza. A spokesperson for the health ministry in Gaza said that the airstrikes by Israel damaged the roofs, doors and windows of the hospital, making it difficult to run services in the hospital. The hospital had been witnessing a high influx of patients after patients were transferred from the Shifa hospital, which was recently destroyed by IDF airstrikes. Meanwhile, 40 trucks carrying humanitarian relief crossed into Gaza Strip on Sunday amid escalating tensions in the region. According to the United Nations World Food Programme, 10 trucks carrying humanitarian aid entered Gaza from Egypt by the way of Rafah border crossing, and the Palestinian Red Crescent Society received the supplies, including food and medical necessities. The Gaza Strip had received a total of 118 trucks of humanitarian aid since the outbreak of the current conflict, according to the Red Crescent Society in Palestine. However, the Israeli side still prohibits the supply of fuel to the coastal enclave, leaving its generator-powered hospitals on the brink of inoperability. In addition, a plane carrying 26 tons of aid landed at El Arish International Airport in Egypt. The World Health Organization regional office for the Eastern Mediterranean said on social media this aid, which included medicine, was provided by the WHO and Medicines Sans Frontiers and will be distributed to hospitals in Gaza Strip once the entry permit is obtained. Meanwhile, South Africa has called upon the United Nations to deploy a rapid protection force to protect civilians in Gaza Strip. Expressing concern at the situation in Gaza, South Africa's foreign ministry is in an official statement said that the entire generations of families have been wiped out in Gaza over the last 3 weeks and there was a need for global accountability for all the deaths. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is among those who have been previously offered to help mediate in the conflict. Earlier this month, South Africa's foreign minister held a phone call with Hamas leadership about getting humanitarian aid into Gaza while simultaneously clarifying that it did not support the war. Thousands of Gaza residents were reported to have broken into United Nations Palestinian Refugee Agency's warehouses and distribution centers to obtain essential supplies like flour. This situation has unfolded as aid supplies to Gaza have been severely restricted due to a recent conflict between Israel and Hamas, causing significant strain in UNRWA's ability to assist people in the region. Even before the conflict, the organization had expressed concern about its mandate due to funding shortages. UNRWA, established in 1949, provides public services and humanitarian aid in various regions including Gaza, the West Bank, Jordan, Syria and Lebanon. A closer look at the concerns raised by a group lobbying for the families of Israeli hostages held by the Hamas. They insist that the safety of their loved ones must be a top priority for the Israeli government, especially as military operations in the Gaza Strip intensify. Take a closer look.
A group lobbying for the families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas say the safety of their loved ones needs to be a top priority for the government. Their concerns come as the Israeli military expands ground operations in the Gaza Strip.
Keep pushing.
Adva Adar believes her 85-year-old grandmother is in Gaza, based on photos and footage purporting to show her capture. Reuters could not independently verify the location or date of filming of videos showing hostages being kidnapped.
My grandmother doesn't have the time to wait. She needs to be back home now. She's ill and she needs medication and she needs medical care.
On Saturday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel's goals in the war were to destroy Hamas's governing and military capabilities, as well as return the more than 200 hostages.
As her boyfriend, I truly afraid that these two goals is like in conflict with each other.
Noam Alon's girlfriend, Inbar Hyman, is one of the hostages.
I think that first, the hostages should be free.
Israel has tightened its blockade and bombarded Gaza since Hamas gunmen stormed across the border into Israel on October 7th, killing at least 1,400 people, as well as taking the hostages.
We are not political people or, military people. We are two simple people that try to save our sister.
Leah and Leonia Nye believe their sister Moran was taken hostage at the Nova Music Festival.
We found a clip from TikTok with begging for her life.
And they say time is of the essence.
If Moran is listening to us, Moran, we are united together. We love you so much.
Continue to be positive as you are. And think about the big hugs we're all going to give you when you come back. And I want you to know that we're doing everything we can to bring you back home as soon as possible.
A female Israeli soldier who had been kidnapped by Hamas has been rescued. The rescue happened during ground operations that was carried out by the IDF in Gaza. The IDF said that soldier has been medically checked and is doing well and has also met her family members. The IDF has been carrying out with rescue operations as well. One of the Israeli soldiers is said to have been rescued from the Hamas. The Israeli soldiers was taken as prisoner by the Hamas when it invaded southern Israel on October 7th. And IDF operations are being carried out in North Israel. And as of now, it is being said that this female soldier has been rescued by the IDF, and after a medical checkup, the soldier has also met with her parents, and she's doing fine as of now. Well, that's all in this edition of the Bulletin. Stay tuned to News 9 for further updates.
Hello everyone, Namaskar. I'm music composer Ricky Cage. 3-time Grammy Award winner and a United Nations Goodwill Ambassador. And you're watching me on First